Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Ronan Nazarene Talks. I'm Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Music. From music? Sorry, from films.
He's getting confused. Yeah,
I'm
go
getting
watch his new channel. He's doing all these film stuff. He's got quite a few up there. You've got to F now, haven't you?
Yes, I just recorded G this morning, so that's why I'm confused.
All right, yeah. I'm in the hand of the lazy bugger who hasn't done that much the last few weeks because I've been doing a lot of tech stuff to try and get my channel better. Hopefully the visuals will be better in the next few videos. We'll try to sort out NDI just now so that you can get good visuals and good sound. But there's a sound issue that once we work that out, we'll be good to go for much better quality. We're almost there. I think we're the last little bit, but we are working on it to make it look better.
It's a process.
Yep. And
so today,
I'm the person in charge of that process, and I'm incompetent. That's the issue.
You're doing a wonderful job.
He says
positive reinforcement.
Yeah, he says smirking he's like, yeah, I'd have done better.
Yeah, so apologies for screwing up the intro, but today we're going to talk about a couple of Ernst Lubitsch films. The Lubitsch touch, which became a phrase. Lubitsch was one of the many refugees in Europe that came to Hollywood and pretty much built the golden age of Hollywood, if you want to call it that, in the 30s and 40s, along with so many others. He was an actor, producer, director, writer, pretty much a bit of a megalomaniac.
Yeah.
For me, he has 7 kind of great Hollywood films, and today we're going to talk about 2 of them, 1932's Trouble in Paradise and 1942's To Be or Not to Be.
Yes, To Be or Not to Be was one of his really late films. He died fairly early. I mean, he's one of the directors who died quicker than...
Yeah, I think he died in 47, I think, maybe. 49, something like that.
Yeah, it was one of those things that was...
His 50s.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's quite a few German directors to come over and died quick. I mean, there was Paul Lenny, there was Murnau.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't last long. A lot of them kind of...
No, it's actually shocking when you realise how young Murnau was.
I know. It's really weird. But yeah, the thing is, when we're doing this one, we thought, I suggested to Ronan that we try and do directors either he knows or I know, or another person doesn't know, so we can have one person who knows it, another person who's coming pretty fresh to it.
Yes.
Like, there's another director we've talked about that I know pretty well that Ronan doesn't know that well, but in this case, he knows Lubitsch and I don't. So I'm the idiot one this time round.
I mean, I've still to watch these silent German ones, but I have seen a bunch of his Hollywood ones, and for me, a lot of them are absolutely excellent.
Yeah, I actually do have the box set of his silent German ones as well that I'm looking forward to watch at some point. But I've had them for years, and it's like I'll watch it soon. Honestly, I'll watch it.
Because obviously acts in those ones as well. Because
yeah, a lot of Jim's acting in a lot of the films. I mean, William Dietrich, he was an actor as well, and he'd act between his films. There's quite a lot of them actually just were actors too, just to probably make a living.
Yeah.
Really. But yeah, but Lubitsch was one of the big success stories went over. I mean, he was one of the ones that went over and became a big director. And it's funny because as he went down pretty much before he just died, Billy Wilder kind of came up. So it was almost like one down while one replaced him. Really.
Yeah, but Lubitsch's mark is he was certainly a forerunner and very influential as far as the golden age of Hollywood, as we always talk about.
Yep.
Which doesn't really exist anymore.
Well, it probably never existed because all we're getting the good stuff. We don't get the really bad stuff. That all the really directed we're all forgotten, you know. But we're just getting the really good stuff has been kept because that's the well-made stuff, really. So it's not really fair because if you actually did that with any era, you'd you just kept the good stuff out and it would make it look a lot better than it actually was.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, the 70s being the last great American period, but there's also in the 70s from America as well.
Yeah, there's also a lot of good bad films in the 70s, like films that were terrible but deeply wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's and even the bad eras that have tons of really good films in there. It's just that comparatively, there's a lot of really, really bad ones. So it just depends on where you're in. But I think we're getting well off track already.
Yes, well, we start with Trouble in Paradise.
Is that a DVD you've got, that one?
That's the Eureka Masters of Cinema DVD.
Yeah, I've got that one too. I don't have a box for it.
1932. Starring Miriam Hopkins, who I believe was in 3 Lubitsch films.
Almost 4, because she should have been in To Be or Not to Be, but her and Jack Benny didn't get on.
Yes, just as well, because Carol Lombard's way better. I'm just biased, obviously.
Yeah.
She was in Design for a Living, which is another fantastic one. Again, another one that's more subversive than you think. Another pre-code one, which is essentially about a threesome.
Yep. I thought you were going to see something else there. I just gave you space.
No, I just left it at a threesome.
All right, you just think about it.
With Gary Cooper and Frederick March.
Whoa.
It's weird seeing Gary Cooper actually doing comedy, because he's in Bluebeard's Eighth Wife as well.
Yeah, I know, it's funny. I mean, there are actors you think of one thing and then you look early in their career and it's like they were completely different then. They did a completely different thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're just so used to Gary Cooper being stiff and kind of not emoting much, but he's actually a lot of fun in those films.
Yeah, I mean, there's someone like Joel McCrea who was in a lot of westerns when he was older. Then you realise he was a Preston Sturges man when he was younger.
Yeah.
It's just weird. It's like, oh yeah, he did other stuff. It's just odd.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that was our sidetrack. You can tell
Yes.
I'm going to wreck this whole thing with sidetracks.
That's fine.
It's inevitable for me today. So why don't you tell us about Trouble in Paradise, since you're the expert on Lubitsch?
I wouldn't go that far. Because I haven't seen Trouble in Paradise as many times as I've seen To Be or Not to Be. But it's about 2 thieves played by Miriam Hopkins and Herbert Marshall, who get involved with a rich woman who's in charge of a company over a stolen handbag. Obviously, there's lots of MacGuffins that go on in these films. And they inveigle their way into her household with the intent of stealing even more money from her. But obviously things get complicated, feelings get involved. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
That was a thrilling synopsis. But
yeah, no. As soon as you said that about the plot, I was thinking that sounds about like Parasite.
Yeah, it does.
I just think that, yeah. It's like,
because I mean, lots of Lubitsch films kind of are about something, but they're also about lots of other things as well, under the surface.
Yeah, we should also say that even though that's the plot, there's a good 20 minutes beginning the film that's not about that at all. It's about the meeting of the 2 killer characters.
Yes.
They call each other and they realise they're both con people, and it's like, oh, we're in love because we're both con men.
Yes, because it starts out as they're both really posh people at this swanky hotel in Venice, and there's a crime, and this
and then attacking each other. They both think the other person's rich, and they're both con people, and it's like, no, they're not. It's like, oh well.
So I mean, in that opening 15, 20 minutes, there's just so much fun even in that, as they kind of rip each other off and they're pickpocketing each other. And again, there's the introduction of the character who gets robbed, who appears later in the film, with hilarious effect.
And because even wonderfully stupid.
Yeah, because even supporting characters in Lubitsch films get a lot of time, and actually get characters built for them. They're not just throwaway characters.
Yeah, but I should say one thing I've found about both Lubitsch films is they take their time to start.
Yeah.
really, really do. They're not trying to push the plot forward. It's like you sit here and first half of the film, you can just enjoy this, and then we'll get to the plot at some point. Don't worry about it. It's not that important. The plot, it's there.
But certainly for me, they don't feel overlong. They're still like about an hour and a half, so it's not as if they're hugely padded.
But the funny thing is, there's a lot of setup in those first half of the film, but you just don't notice it.
Yeah.
You're kind of just watching them and having fun, and you realise most of it was set up. It's just that they weren't targeting you to see we're set up now. It's not. No, you just it happens, and eventually you get there.
Because there's some little line that will be spoken, but because it's within a conversation, it doesn't like stand out as, oh yeah, we're going to come back to this later in the film.
Yeah, and it also is the idea of thieves who are in love with thievery. They just love their job. It's like it's just they're thieves, but they're very much workaholics. They love their job. They really adore it. It's the thing that makes their lives worth living. Is to be thieves and to be con men, and they're actually targeting the rich. They're not actually targeting like.
Yeah, because the thing is, you're on their side.
Yeah,
because the rich person's such an idiot.
Yeah, you want them to actually rip off these people because they're spoiled rotten and they don't deserve what they've got. They're just basically born into money. So it's like it's just enjoyable watching them get absolutely hammered. But these two people are way smarter than them. And
the woman who's taken over the perfume factory, she spends 100,000 francs, is it, on the handbag, and then she loses it. She wants, she puts out a reward to get it back, and then you have all these people bringing handbags, and you have obviously the one guy, the political point about in times like these you shouldn't be spending 100,000 francs on a handbag.
Yeah, he's crook as well, though.
Yeah,
everyone's a crook. I mean,
even the guy who's had the confidence of the family for over 40 years.
He's the biggest crook there is.
He's skimming from the company as well. So
I think he's probably skimming more than anyone else does. I think he's one of the biggest hypocrite there is. But there's that. There's also the funny thing is the person they're trying to rip off at the beginning. Yeah, she's an idiot, but you start to like her as it goes on because she has fun.
Two-dimensional.
There's more to her than what she lets on. It's just that it's almost like she was encouraged to be spoiled.
Yes.
Really. And actually interacting with the two thieves actually kind of brings her down to sort of realism in some way. Just like, there's life, you have to do these other things with,
Yeah, but the thieves are probably the two most moral characters in the film.
I wouldn't go as far as call them moral. They're amoral. They're just less moral. They're just less scummy than the other ones. At least they know what they are.
Yeah, and you also have the wonderful business between the two suitors of the women in charge who are just buffoons, but it's they're still a lot of fun.
The best thing about them is they keep on commenting on other people, but they're really talking about themselves. But they don't realise that they're actually talking about all the flaws they point out in other people are actually their flaws. And they kind of know but don't want to admit it to themselves.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because they're so terrible. They're just they'll do anything to get at each other, anything.
Yes.
And there's lots of funny little visuals that tell the story, so that they're not a ton of exposition. Like Lubitsch is really good at getting the visual stuff so you didn't have to have a scene that explains it all. He just does it visually, just so you've got the basic stuff. Or you can get a sense of clocks and things like that, and you actually hear people talking in the background. And you get a lot across in about a minute that would take 10 minutes normally. Just
it's a really good visual director as well as his scripts are usually really tight.
Yeah.
Full of great one-liners and obviously political stuff as well without being overtly political about it.
Yeah, one thing I see shared with Howard Hawks has he feeling they would over scripts a lot, like rewritten. It's very fat in here. Well, let's lose that. And there's a kind of playfulness to the form that Hawks has too. That it's serious, but not too serious. We're having fun as well.
Yeah, there's a lightness of touch in these films as well as having layers under it about stuff that's a lot darker, as we'll see in the other film.
Yeah, but even this one, it's the idea is the people in charge of the money should not be in charge of the money. They're interested in things that are utterly useless, like going to the opera, and how they seem to other people, and they're more obsessed with that than actually having what they should be their jobs.
Yeah.
They're completely useless. And even the idea of other people having a bad time doesn't affect them at all. They do not, they're completely beyond that. They do not care. They will, just keep going.
I mean, if this had been made like 10, 12 years later, by somebody else, it could have been a gritty film noir or something, but this is just so much more fun.
Yeah, because you're having fun with the the crooks trying to get away with it.
Yeah, and you want to get away with it.
Yeah, I know. And the funny thing is, it's got enough confidence to leave people out for a while. Like Mary Hopkins disappears for a good 15 minutes of the film, halfway through, and she's the star because it's the part of the plot is better. She's not there.
Yeah.
But when she comes back, she's important. So it's like these kind of things that they have confidence that you'll stick around and not get too bored, even if someone's not in it that much for a bit.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have never heard of the guy who plays the lead in it until I saw him in that one, because he never really went on to do much. He was just a actor. But he was terrific in this. He really had it all down.
Yeah, he's
such a snob as well, which is so much fun. He's so utterly despairing of manners and the way people react, and the idea that the rich just don't know how to be rich properly. It's like
it's
almost like he wants to punish them for not having the taste to enjoy their wealth properly. It's like, you've got this money, you're going to suffer for not appreciating it.
Yeah.
You're a total snob.
Because they have their plans to go around the world with the money and do other things, but other rich people just want to have parties and spend money in handbags.
Yeah, and also they're addicted to it. It's their thing is to rip off these rich people. I mean, Marion Hopkins, there's a nice thing with her is she's addicted to this thing. She gets off on the idea of stealing from the rich. She just loves it. There's no ambiguity. This is her thing. This is what she loves doing, is just to grip these people off. And the big joke is that he's such a great con man, but he still messes up. Like in simple ways. It's like he can plan everything out and then make one simple mistake, and that's what's going to get him in trouble. So he's not infallible, which is a nice thing. It keeps it interesting because there's all these landmines all around, and he's got a perfect plan for how to do this, and then life gets in the way and he has to try and adapt quicker.
Yeah, I mean, there's a wonderful moment when they plan their escape, but he can't help resist sending her flowers. But then he bills her with the flowers, which is just a wonderful touch.
Yeah, he's so petty in that way, and he does kind of fall for the person he's conning. Yes. He genuinely does, but he knows he can't last because he's a con man that everyone knows about. The police are trying to find him and stuff. But he does like the romance of thinking, I could do this forever.
Yes.
He does fall for it a little bit. Because he kind of wants that life.
Yeah, which is probably true of quite a lot of criminals.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is just hilarious. I mean, it is a kind of harder film to talk about because it is so much on the surface. Everything's on the surface. And the pleasure's on the surface. It's the line delivery. It's the acting.
It's just so well crafted, and it's just an absolute joy.
Yeah. Especially like in the beginning of it, where they keep on changing personas of each other. Like, it's really wonderful how they're always just mess with each other. And this is before they've even met. For a bit, when I first saw them, I thought, do they know each other? And it turns out they don't, because just the way it's written is like, it's so ambiguous. They don't know each other at that point, but they kind of do know each other because their instincts are so well aligned. It's like they understand each other almost instantly when they first meet up, the two con people.
Yeah. It's like the old favourite of Miriam Hopkins pretending to be on the phone to some duchess or something, and of course it's just on the phone to her, I don't know who it
is. Or something.
And it's just like priceless.
Yeah, she's really funny in it. She really, especially when she gets to really do the posh bird thing. I mean, the only criticism I've got is the idea I'd like to see him keep on doing the posh thing, because it has to become a assistant later on. You're thinking it's less good use of her than it could have been.
Yeah.
But she's still fun, still a lot of fun.
But because it's a pre-code film, the word sex appeal are actually... I remember when I saw it first, I was like shocked because they mentioned sex appeal. And it's like, that is a pre-Hays Code film, so that's why.
Yeah, no, this would not get through a couple of years later. I mean, I think it was one of the last films that get through before the code hit. And I think it was one of those that kind of suffered a bit because it couldn't get re-released because it's so immoral compared to the rest of the films. It was like, what do we do with this one?
Because I think, I could be wrong, but I think it is one of the ones that wasn't perhaps forgotten about, but did kind of disappear for a while.
Yeah, because of what was in it.
Yeah. Whereas To Be or Not to Be, or The Shop Around the Corner, and Ninochka were always about.
Yeah, because they worked within the code to try and get their points across. They were kind of clever. They had to be clever and subtle. Well, this one was much more in your face, like, this is fun, isn't it? For crooks.
And they're talking about the sex appeal of stealing.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, and one thing to say, this film is wonderfully moral and just so much fun.
Yeah.
And really enjoyable. And it does feel slow at the start to a degree because it doesn't really tell you the plot, but as you go on, it just becomes more and more fun. Everyone builds and builds and builds from what started. And the first couple of scenes are amazing as well, but in different ways.
Yeah.
So don't go in expecting a really tight plot. The plot's there, but it's more about the atmosphere and the fun and the enjoyment.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it. It's not a screwball comedy. I mean, it takes its time.
Yeah.
It's not as fast paced as what we came to learn as a screwball comedy.
Yeah, because the lead character would not want to sweat. He'd rather just walk down the stairs very slowly. I mean, why rush when you're stealing money? And why rush for anything?
Absolutely.
Yep. So that's Trouble in Paradise.
Yes, I would recommend. Sadly, it's not on Blu-ray yet.
It is in DVD. If you look for it, you can probably find it somewhere. Okay, now we're going to Be or Not to Be, which is obviously a reference to Hamlet. I was going to joke and give them the wrong Shakespeare title. A joke. I thought someone would have to think I'm serious. I was so tempted to say Macbeth just to be annoying. Yes. It came from King Lear. So To Be or Not to Be is about a bunch of pretentious actors in Poland who are so self-important that they think everything they do is massively important. Every play they put on is the most amazing play ever. And then, of course, Poland is invaded by the Nazis. Because that's what you need in a comedy, the Nazis.
Yes.
And basically, as it goes on, we go to Robert Stack, who's this guy who met the lead actress, played by Carol Lombard, in the opening scenes, and he fell in love with her. And now he finds that this guy who was an advisor to the British is going back to try and partner out a big mission. But he starts to realise this guy may actually be a traitor. So he has to go back with the help of the British to try and hunt this guy down before he gets the Nazis. But he gets stuck in with all these actors again. They have to help him try to stop this guy from reaching his destination, which means a lot of farce ensues. This is much more farcical than the other one.
Yes.
And the Ham actors have to rise to the occasion and be better than they've ever been before. Or happier or something.
I'll try and surpass myself. No, don't do that.
Yeah. So it is a wonderful film. This is of the two, I would say this one was my favourite of the two. Really. I really enjoyed this one. I think I'd seen this film before, but I've forgotten I'd seen it. I guess I saw it when I was a teenager. But it's been years. Some of it rang in my head. I was watching it and I think I've seen this one, but there's just some gaps I noticed. But
I mean, I haven't seen Trouble in Paradise that many times, but I've seen To Be or Not to Be a bunch of times. It is on my favourite 150 list and it would probably be pretty high because I think it's pretty perfect in my opinion.
Yep.
I'm biased, obviously, towards Carol Lombard, but she's absolutely fantastic in it.
You're a slight fan.
Yes. Sadly, this was her last film. She never actually saw it open.
Yeah, she died before it opened.
Yeah. And Jack Benny, who, again, not really the biggest fan of, but he is excellent in this because he's playing a pretentious ham who thinks he's a lot better than he actually is, and he's absolutely perfect for it.
Yeah, a good double bill of this film would be with 20th Century. It's not a Carol Lombard film with another tremendous ham, this time being the director. But it could make a very good double bill.
Yeah, it's the fact when, war, because Robert Stack walks out of Jack Benny's performance every time he says to be or not to be, to go be with Carol Lombard. So when war's broken out, he's already walked out. So Jack Benny's furious. Everybody's upset at the war, and Jack Benny's furious because Robert Stack's walked out on him, and he has just no idea this is.
Again, it's a constant joke, and the good thing with this joke is they don't overdo it. It's like you have to watch Robert Stack walk all the way out and watch his face twice. It's funnier because you see it in detail both times. You see his confusion both times. It's like, what is going on?
And you never see his full speech, which is probably a good thing. Because the joke is also Jack Benny playing Hamlet, as if that would ever actually happen in reality.
Yeah, but he's playing one of Poland's biggest actors, and he always wants to play Hamlet and get. But of course, these are big hams, and of course, at least the best line in the film. When Jack Benny asked if he'd seen Turo before, was his character's name, he goes, "Yeah, he did the Shakespeare, but we were doing it Poland."
Yes.
It's like,
and again, it's like, I can't believe I've left the fate of the country in the hands of a ham.
Yeah, I know. It's just like,
And the other really blustery, big ham-like actor, there's another line of like, "What you are, I wouldn't eat." It's like,
yeah, I mean, and one of the villains is called Concentration Camp something.
Bernhard,
and it's like, and they just keep on nailing that line repeatedly because one of the first lines is you see Hitler going through the town and people watching. Why is Hitler doing here? Because it's before they've invaded. It turns out it's an actor playing Hitler because everyone was telling him it doesn't look like Hitler.
Yes.
Then you go back in time for basically 20 minutes. And see a scene. I mean that's the thing. Usually you go back in time, you go back days or weeks. No, they go back 20 minutes just for a petty joke. And it's like you went to see this one scene of a guy talking to a little boy, trying information. It's Jack Benny playing this guy, and it's all these jokes about the Nazis and stuff. And then Hitler arrives and goes, "Hail Hitler, hail Hitler, hail me."
Yes.
Another really good line.
Because apparently Jack Benny's dad walked out of the cinema within 5 minutes of seeing his son as a Nazi.
Yeah.
He didn't realise he was just playing.
Yeah. But there's lots of these weird jokes, and because it starts off, this is a bit broad for even portraying Nazis, then you realise, no, it's ham actors portraying Nazis, and this is their view of Nazis. They think it's satire, in fact, it's just silly. Which is part of the joke, because their idea of satire is not satire. Their idea of satire is just very basic.
Because there's also like the running joke of, "Oh, you must have heard of the great actor," and it's like nobody's heard of him.
Like Carol Lombard comes in with the big dress. I think this would look good in concentration camp.
Yes.
It's like, what?
Yeah. It was made in 1942, you have to remember. Right in the middle. That's just...
I know. It's
an amazing film.
It makes it even better is because, like Lubitsch knew what was going on.
Yeah.
He's sneaking tons of stuff in there that people would find offensive. Because people found this film offensive. The same way as they found Dr. Strangelove offensive, because it was talking about stuff that was actually going on and stuff people didn't want to talk about. And I was like, nope, we're talking about it. We're putting it on this film.
Yes.
And he did it by actually having a bunch of ham actors who would be the last people who want to get involved in this being subjects of it.
Yeah.
Which made it even better or worse or whatever. but it made it controversial.
Yeah. But then there's a couple of moving bits with Greenberg, who finally gets to play Shylock and give the wonderful Shylock speech a couple of times.
Yep. And there's also there's lots of wonderful things in it. I mean, the big thing is the second half of the plot is basically his Jack Benny's character been paranoid about Robert Stack because he knows that he's after his wife.
Yes, parachuted right into my slippers.
Yeah, and he's paranoid, and it leads to lots of insanity because he can't contain his jealousy. And but he does the right thing ultimately. I mean, he does actually stand up and do the right thing, but he's such a petty man.
Yeah, it's only driven by trying to stop Robert Stack being with his wife. That's his motivation for doing the right thing.
I know, but he does it. I mean, he gets him to do good stuff. But there's lots of really wonderful scenes. He was playing the commandant to fool the guy who's the traitor. And it turns out he's running a dialogue pretty quickly, dries up, and he's trying to think of things to say to him to look like he's a commandant, and it's hilarious. So they call me concentration camp Ernst now. They repeatedly, every time he says it, it's funnier because he's more and more desperate.
Yes.
And there's always these weird things about the dead bodies turning up, because it ends up that he has to replace the guy who's a traitor to get into the Nazi thing to save his wife from to get her out.
Yeah.
And it leads to insanity ensues when they discover the body, and everyone knows this guy's lying, and Jack Benny has to actually lie like crazy.
Yeah, so he has to play the commandant to the traitor, and then he has to play the traitor to the real commandant. It's really funny. Fantastic.
And then there's stuff with his people who are trying to help him and just make the situation worse.
Yes, especially that huge ham actor who's just like so self-important and just like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, no, it is very strange. I'm going to turn this light off. I'm suddenly blinded by the light.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, the weather keeps on changing here every 10 minutes. So lights on, lights off, lights on, lights off. You won't be able to tell the difference. But yeah, no, he's such a... All the actors are hilarious in this one.
Yeah.
And Robert Stack's the straight man. He doesn't get any jokes, but he's the straight man. He has the setup for all the other jokes. And Carol Lombard is the wife who is more concerned with what's going on than Jack Benny is, but she's still vain. She's still... You can't accuse her of being modest about her skills.
No. But she's absolutely radiant and delightful in this.
Yeah. It's wonderfully cynical. The whole thing is wonderfully cynical. I mean, she goes into the hotel and writes a suicide letter of the traitor, thinking he's going to die, trying to make it look like a suicide.
Yeah.
But then she can't leave the room. She's not allowed to leave.
Yes.
It's just full of weird gags throughout. I mean, every scene's a set piece of some weird comedy that they've set up. It's like it's so much faster paced than Trouble in Paradise.
Yeah.
Because it is more farcical, it is much more like, as soon as Robert Stack comes back from Britain and lands back in Poland, it just gets crazier and crazier because everything they do backfires and makes it even more absurd situation. He's constantly trying to find ways out of a dumb decision he's made, because this is not a person who plans well.
No.
In any way. He's got a very basic plan which he's going to follow through, and it goes wrong always. But not in a annoying way, it's just the way life goes. He's probably such an idiot that he doesn't think ahead.
Yes.
But yes, some of the jokes are great. I mean, plus the commandant, who's the villain, is such a idiot too.
Yes. He's always blaming his assistant Schultz.
Yeah, and telling him he's an idiot. Why did we do this? You ordered this. No, it was your fault. This was the original stupid Nazi that has been done to death. This is the best version because what's good is he's still a threat because he can get a lot of people killed. He's still threatening even though he's a moron. And he just portrays the Nazis as being really stupid. You know, they're motivated by their own, what they want to do, but it doesn't give no respect to them at all.
No.
And and of course the really funny bit where the commandant thinks that she's having an affair with Hitler.
Yes.
It's just constant, non-stop weird absurdities. And when Jack Benny loses his beard,
it's the fact after that you have a shot of a gun, you see the closed doors, and then he shoots. But of course, because he's still alive because he obviously missed, so he still goes Schultz even after he shot himself. It's just like you can't even do that properly. It's just...
there's also the opera thing as well when they're trying to get out of the country.
Yeah,
and there a guy coming up yelling about Hitler, and the fake Hitler comes out and stuff, and then Jack Benny loses his beard, and it's like,
yes, there's great facial hair gags in this film.
I know, it's like lots of facial hair, tons of facial hair gags. You know, also Jack Benny can somehow imitate everybody, even though he's a ham actor.
Yes,
and even though he's not very good at it, the people around him are that dumb they don't actually notice. Although no one knows each other that well, so they also assume that's the person.
Yeah.
And any kind of stupidity they assume's fine, because they're just not the brightest of people. It's a kind of a funny comedy about bureaucracy. It's like, you hear these names and you think, oh, these must be really good at their job, and you meet them and it's like, no, they're just idiots. They're just...
Yeah. Because, I mean, Seletsky, when he goes to the fake actors, Gestapo headquarters, and the big ham actor comes out, and of course he asks the guy, how did he become a general? And he's like, oh yeah, he's Goring's brother-in-law or something. And it's like, they know the kind of buffoonery of the upper classes and the higher ranks. It's just who you know.
Yeah. And there's lots of really weird jokes about everybody knows how to work the system. Everybody assumes that lots of people get their jobs for no good reason, and other people get screwed over for no good reason. It's just the way it is. But it just takes the whole idea of the absurdity of these really dumb actors. Because they are. Because Jack Benny loses all the time for dumb reasons. And especially the bit where he loses it to the spy, because the spy works out that he's jealous of Robert Stack.
Yeah.
Because he's overreacted to the wife thing, and it's just hilarious.
He's like, I'll mobilise the whole German army against them. It's like,
what's going on? This is a bit off.
It's one of those films you literally can't go through every great line because there's just so many of them. It's just like,
again, there's also really good visual stuff, like with a chasing spy down through the theatre.
Yeah, that's a great
sequence. And just when Stack first arrives and he's getting chased by the Germans, that's a really nice suspenseful sequence. And there's bits where he's trying to go through Poland and the main city, and he's trying to get to his destination. There's a nice kind of noirish feel to it. And then, of course, when Jack Benny comes back and finds this guy sleeping in his bed, it's just great. So after all the tension, then they just have tons of really great gags, which makes it even funnier.
Yeah, because then he just stands in the corner and says to be or not to be, and of course Robert Stack instinctively gets out of bed.
And that's the thing, because they take even though the characters are buffoonish, because they take the threat of the Nazis seriously, it creates a tension throughout the film.
Because even when Benny's given them kind of names that maybe they could be head of the underground, and then Schultz is like, oh, well, we shot him, you still have the idea that they're just shooting people without asking questions, without, finding out about them. They're just like shooting them on sight, basically. So even though it's obviously a comedy, you still have that danger there. And even though Erdhard is a bit of a buffoon, he's still killing people without...
Yeah, he's incompetent, but the machinery around him isn't.
Yeah.
So his incompetence can make things even worse, and things can spiral out of control for no reason.
Yes.
And these actors are in over their head, so there is a tension of what's going to go next, what's going to go wrong next. mean, for quite a bit, Lombard's stuck in that hotel which run by the Nazis. She can't get out. So that's a suspense thing, even though they don't play it up for tons of suspense. It's still always hanging in the background. It's a problem you have to solve.
Yeah.
So it creates a nice balance of tension and laughs and happiness.
Yeah, and when they think, Benny's the imposter, it's kind of like, how's he going to get out of this?
Yeah, because they put in the room the dead body.
Yeah,
it's like let's see how long it takes them to come back out. It's just hilarious. The Germans are just messing with him. It's like it's really funny.
Yeah, because Earhart's going, oh no, give him time, let him stew. For intelligent people, that's how it kind of works. They need to do that. But then if that doesn't work, we'll give him some pain.
Yeah. Yeah, all those things just work really well, and it's really hilarious. And
yeah, it's one of those films that perhaps shouldn't work, but it just does because it's
so well
done.
Yeah, and there's also the fact they keep on calling concentration camp Ernst, which is always bringing up the idea of concentration camps constantly.
Yeah,
they bring it up as a joke, but it's actually like reminding you, yeah, these things that happen, these exist. This is like something. It's not fantasy. This is something that's serious and dangerous. You have to deal with.
Yeah.
So
I mean, obviously, it was remade by Mel Brooks in 1983 with himself and Anne Bancroft. But to be honest, I haven't even watched it all the way through because I just didn't really see the point of it.
I've never seen that one. It just seems of kind of like, why remake this thing?
Yeah.
Don't just like it's been done perfectly. Just leave it.
Yeah. Stick to the original in this case.
Yeah, I mean, unless you don't remake stuff unless you've got a really good idea of how to switch around and do something new with it.
Yeah, it's pretty much scene for scene.
Yeah, what's the point, really? But yeah, I mean, also you needed the time to actually have it made during the time of the crisis.
Yeah, I mean, to make it in 1942 is just amazing and just adds to it. Making it in 1983 about World War II, it doesn't have the same impact.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no Nazis, there's no nothing. What's it really about ultimately? Yep. Beyond Mel Brooks wanted to be made this film, there's no point. Yep. It needs to be done at the time. I mean, there's a certain like feeling you get through a lot of the war movies made by the German expatriates. We look at a lot of Fritz Lang movies made during the war. They're paranoid as hell and twisted and weird, and because he knew what was going on, so he was actually, there was some passion, even if the plot might not have been great. Sometimes it's passion there, and there was a paranoia. And a lot of the German directors just knew how serious it was.
Yeah.
Like, I've read the, who was it, what do you call him? I forgot his name now, the Caligari, the guy who was in Caligari, the
Conrad Veidt.
No, the other one. Oh, Conrad Veidt.
Conrad Veidt.
Yeah, he had this contract when he went to America. He would not play. He would only play villains because of what was happening in Germany. What's the point in trying to portray Germans as good at the moment? He would only play villains at the moment till during the war.
Yeah.
Then he died. So.
Yes, another person who died way too early.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, there's I think because these Germans knew what was actually going on, what the stakes were. It was. It added something to the films. There's a passion there that Americans just couldn't get because they were just about defeating Hitler. They weren't about.
Yeah.
No, there's something really seriously going wrong here that's beyond just a war. There's some moral collapse that is disgusting.
Yeah.
That gave rise to film noir after they came back, after the war was over.
Certainly.
There's this feeling that was coming through the films even then that would evolve into noir, basically.
Yeah.
Because this is proto-noir.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff in here that feels very noirish that would go into noir. Really.
But the fact that they obviously play it for laughs makes it even more amazing.
I know, it's just...
it could have been a deadly serious film and it would have still been powerful, but the fact it's got jokes and fantastic jokes.
Yeah, as again, like Doctor Strangelove. Doctor Strangelove still remains disturbing because it's funny, and you can watch it and you still feel the tension of it all, and it's just like the jokes that make it more horrifying.
Failsafe is a really good film, but it's not as good as Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah, and it lacked that extra thing that was needed to make it genuinely nightmarish. And this film's that same thing. There's something in it that's dangerous and odd and crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's dealing with a bunch of ham actors who you wouldn't trust to do anything.
Let alone save Poland.
I know. Especially as the great final scene we still do Not to Be or Not to Be now on the London stage, and somebody else walks out. You have Robert Stark in the foreground, and he's sitting there, and some other guy walks out, and it's like, that's just a great ending.
Yes.
No one wants his Hamlet. His Hamlet's not. It's not worth it.
And when they do escape, they end up in Scotland.
I know. I don't think it was very Scotland-like.
No.
But it was quite nice to have them end up there.
Yeah, because
I like the fact that Nick Pittle's playing.
Yeah, it's just the fact they don't land in England, so they can't even get that right.
I know, it's like everything goes wrong. They can't do anything right, ever. Yeah, it's just really funny. I mean, it's a hilarious film. We're at the danger now of just starting quoting more and more lines, really, from it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much good stuff in it. Again, it's not that long. It's 99 minutes, but it's jam-packed with fantastic stuff.
Yeah. It's just both films are great. Both films you should really try and see, especially To Be or Not to Be. I think it's a harder one to see, though. Really. I mean, is it available in many places? Of course,
that's the Criterion Region A Blu-ray. It's not available in Region B. But you can. I think it's only Criterion DVD because I did have the Criterion DVD before upgraded. So.
Yeah. So, are there any good extras on that?
There's an audio commentary by a film historian. There's a 1916 short directed by and starring Lubitsch. There's a 2010 French documentary about Lubitsch, which is very good. That's one of the things I watched. And there's 2 episodes of the radio series, one of which has a version of the film starring William Powell. It's still got Sid Ruman as concentration camp Bernhard, plus obviously the booklet. But the documentary about Lubitsch is good.
So definitely worth buying then, if you can hold it. Cool.
It's a pristine print.
Yeah. Obviously, a rubbishy print, so I obviously need to upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, again, a lot of these good ones are on Blu-ray. The obvious omission is The Shop Around the Corner, which is still bizarrely not on Blu-ray, which is ridiculous. But hopefully one day Kino or somebody will sort that.
Yeah, well, you can always watch the remake.
No, you're right.
Yeah. And there's a Garbo one as well. Which
the Notchka's fantastic. Yeah, that's... Well, I've got that in a Spanish Blu-ray.
All right.
But that doesn't have a... I should really have a other Blu-ray release, really.
Yep. So, is that us finished then? Because I think we've covered both.
Yes, just go watch some Lubitsch. And let us know what you think. If you've seen these 2, what are your opinions of them?
Yes, and thanks for watching. And we're back soon with a super special director thing.
Yes.
That I'm looking forward to researching.
Yes. Thanks for watching, and farewell.
See you later.